What if the strength you've been searching for isn't something you build on your own, but something you receive from within? What if the emptiness you sometimes feel is not a sign of failure, but an invitation to be filled with something greater? And what if the love you've been trying to understand is deeper, wider, and more powerful than anything you've ever experienced? There are moments in life when you feel stretched, not just physically or mentally, but deep inside. You try to stay strong, you try to keep going, but something feels missing. Something feels incomplete. You may not even be able to explain it. You just know you need more. More peace, more strength, more clarity, more purpose. In Ephesians 14:21, we are given a powerful glimpse into what that more really is. This is not just a prayer, it is a declaration of what is possible when you are connected to something greater than yourself. Paul begins by bowing his knees before God. This posture matters. It reflects humility, surrender, recognition that true strength does not come from within alone, but from a source beyond us. And this is where everything begins, because as long as you rely only on your own strength, you will eventually feel limited. You will feel tired, overwhelmed, uncertain. But when you shift your focus, when you recognize that there is a greater source available, you open yourself to something different, something deeper. The prayer asks that you be strengthened with power through His Spirit in your inner being. Notice where that strength comes from. Not from circumstances, not from achievements, not from external validation, from within. This kind of strength is different. It doesn't disappear when things get difficult. It doesn't fade when situations change. It remains steady, because it is not dependent on what is happening around you. It is rooted in something constant. And this is important, because many people spend their lives trying to fix external situations, hoping that will bring internal peace. If this problem goes away, I'll feel better. If this situation changes, I'll be stronger. If things get easier, I'll have peace. But what if peace doesn't come from things getting easier, but from becoming stronger within? That's the shift this prayer invites you to make. It continues, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. This is not just about belief, it is about presence. It is about allowing something deeper to take root inside you. Because what fills your heart shapes your life. If your heart is filled with fear, your decisions reflect that. If your heart is filled with doubt, your direction becomes uncertain. If your heart is filled with pressure, your life feels heavy. But when your heart is filled with faith, something changes. You begin to move differently. You begin to see differently. You begin to respond differently. And then comes one of the most powerful parts of this message, that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may have the power to understand how wide and long and high and deep that love is. This is not surface level. This is not temporary. This is something vast, something beyond easy explanation. Love that is not limited by conditions, not reduced by mistakes, not weakened by circumstances, a love that remains. And here's the challenge. Many people hear about this kind of love, but never fully experience it. Because they try to measure it. They try to understand it logically. They try to limit it based on their own experiences. But this love is different. It goes beyond what you expect, beyond what you've seen, beyond what you think you deserve. And that's why the prayer continues, that you may know this love that surpasses knowledge. Think about that. To know something that goes beyond knowledge is not just intellectual, it's experiential. It's something you feel, something you live, something that becomes part of you. And when that happens, you begin to change. Not because someone told you to, but because something inside you is different. You become more patient, more understanding, more steady, not perfectly, but noticeably. Because when you are filled with something powerful, it overflows. And that's what this prayer leads to, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. This is not about a small improvement. It's about fullness, wholeness. A life that is not constantly searching for something missing, but living from a place of being filled. And this is where many people struggle, because they are constantly trying to fill that space with external things. Success, recognition, relationships, distractions. And none of those are wrong on their own, but they were never meant to fill what only something deeper can. So the question becomes, what are you filling your life with? Because whatever you fill your life with will shape how you feel, how you think, how you live. And then comes one of the most powerful declarations in this passage. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all ask or imagine. Immeasurably more. That means beyond your expectations, beyond your plans, beyond what you think is possible. But here's the key. It happens according to his power that is at work within us. Not just around you, within you. This means the potential for more is already connected to you. The strength you're looking for is not far away. The peace you're searching for is not out of reach. The growth you desire is not impossible, but it requires connection. It requires openness. It requires a willingness to receive, not just strive. Because many people spend their lives trying harder instead of going deeper, trying to fix everything externally instead of strengthening internally. But when you focus on what's happening inside you, everything begins to shift. Your reactions become calmer. Your perspective becomes clearer. Your confidence becomes more stable. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are grounded. And that grounding changes how you move through life. You are less shaken by challenges, less controlled by emotions, less dependent on external validation, because your foundation is different. And when your foundation is strong, your life becomes more stable, even in uncertain moments. And that leads to the final part. To him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations. This reminds us that this is not just about you, it's about impact. When you are filled, it doesn't stop with you. It affects others. Your presence becomes different. Your words carry more weight. Your actions reflect something deeper, and people notice. Because in a world where many feel empty, pressured, and uncertain, someone who is grounded stands out. Not loudly, but clearly. So today, take a moment and reflect. Where am I trying to find strength? Where am I looking for peace? What am I filling my life with? Because the answer to those questions shapes everything. And if you feel like something is missing, if you feel like you need more, it's not a weakness. It's an invitation. An invitation to go deeper, to be filled with something greater, to experience a kind of strength and love that doesn't fade with circumstances. You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be open. Open to receive. Open to grow. Open to something more. And when you take that step, even if it's small, something begins to change. Not all at once, but steadily, deeply, lasting. Thank you for watching this video. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to like, follow the channel Holy Path Insights, and share this video with someone who may need to be reminded that they are meant to be filled, not empty.